It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
10:06 on a Sunday morning, KXL. I am Nick Miles, and you are listening to Test Miles. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am pretty stunned this morning because there is huge automotive news, as you heard in the CBS News this morning. The Tony Stewart incident that happened yesterday in upstate New York is dominating the news. In short, go to our Facebook page to watch the video as events unfolded last night at this racetrack. The long and the short story is Tony Stewart was involved with another driver, an altercation where he struck the other driver with his vehicle. The other driver got out of the vehicle, was angry, standing on the track, and when Tony Stewart came around for another lap, the back end of his car clipped the second driver, who actually, unfortunately, passed away from his injuries last night. So this is dominating the news. How much can we talk about this today? Let's talk about a few things. First of all, initially, Tony Stewart said he was going to race in today's Watkins Glen NASCAR race. He's withdrawn that. He will no longer be racing today. And they let him sleep on that overnight, but they thought the best thing to do would be not to race tomorrow. There are lots of controversies from social media. People that were standing on the track are tweeting that Tony revved his engine as he came around the corner the second time, lost control of the back of his vehicle, and struck the second driver. There's also a lot of talk about whether there is an investigation. NASCAR have stepped back and said they have no authority here. The investigation will be done by the local authorities in this other race. So, team, we actually are lucky enough to have the team here this morning, Brad, Sean, and Oli. Oli, NASCAR's kind of your thing. Tell me what you think.
Well, I am a NASCAR fan, and I think that the tricky part about this is there's so small amount of information. We have a video. There is some sound. There's some things about hearing the motor revving. I heard one thing where the video was from the other side of the track and the revving wasn't from his car. It was from another car that was picking up the audio. I think that when you look at these cars, sprint cars in general, you're driving on dirt. If you crank the steering wheel, you're going to go straight. The way that they turn is by powering and spinning out the rear wheels, a.k.a. like a drift car. So I think it's really tricky. I think you fall into all these different areas with it, and you try to make sense of what happened. There's quotes from other drivers, obviously condolence to Kevin Ward Jr., his family, and his friends. And there's so many variables, and you know, everyone especially with social media and all the information, we have very little, and everyone jumps with their opinion, what it looks like, what they think happened. I think it's hard to believe that Tony Stewart, who has driven for so long, if he went to miss the guy and revved it, and that this would happen on purpose.
Again, initially the video looks like the back end of Tony Stewart's car flips out. He kind of fishtails, and as it comes around the corner, it catches this other driver.
But in my opinion, the way it looks like is Tony was actually trying to avoid him. I mean, it looks like he was trying to cut upwards after avoiding him, because this guy was walking out on a track, a live track, and which you shouldn't be doing. So to me, it just kind of looked like he was avoiding him.
Can I be the cranky old man in the?
Yes, Brad, as you always are.
I'm gonna say this never would have happened if the guy had not gotten out of his car.
No, of course. There's
and
lots
walked
of
down
things
in the middle of the track,
right,
and other drivers barely missed him as well.
Right. So you're absolutely right. There are a chain of events here. Clearly, the accident in the first place. If that had never happened, the chain of events wouldn't have started.
Well, Rubbin's racing, so just because he put him into the wall doesn't
Getting
mean
out of your
that.
car and standing in the track, waving your fist at somebody or shaking your finger at somebody, not a good plan, especially on a hot track. Secondly, did Tony Stewart do anything inappropriately? And then post the event, Tony Stewart's camp posted on social media, business as usual, which was an unfortunate thing to do because at the time he was planning on racing in today's Watkins Glen NASCAR race. Unfortunately, they withdrew that overnight.
A lot of times NASCAR teams are not the best PR guys.
Clearly not in this circumstance.
Well, the worst thing about this, though, is Tony Stewart, and this is going to come up, too, is Tony Stewart has a temper. I mean, he has got out on the track before in the pit and threw his helmet through someone's window because they cut him off.
But at this point, Tony obviously wasn't the person on the track. It was this other driver. What was his name again?
Kevin Ward Jr.
And I
a
get
young
that, but I
man, like in his
guarantee
late
they're gonna-
teens.
He's
right?
20.
I
20,
guarantee
20.
they're going to bring that up in this and saying how Tony has a anger problem.
Well,
and
that falls into, I mean, how many drivers? I mean, Danica went out on the track. The difference was she was 30 feet away from the car. When Tony Stewart threw his helmet at Matt Kenseth, he was going through the pits. I mean, this is all happening at a safe distance. I think the toughest thing here with the incident is...
Well, wait, yeah, but there's no safe distance to throw a helmet at somebody's car.
But there's a better distance, you know,
Right.
and
But
you
I think
know,
that what that demonstrates is, although there wasn't a huge amount of danger at that point, that demonstrates is, you know, you allow your temper to take you over in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if Tony Stewart allowed his temper to get out of the way and revved his engines as he came around the corner, which is being suggested on social media,
Correct.
then he is as much as at fault as the other driver is of standing in the middle of a track.
yeah, I don't think we'll be able to really say anything one way or the other until we get some more video, we get some more information, because, I mean, revving his engine, if he's trying to power the back end around to miss the guy, then that's one thing. You're going to hear the engine rev, and, you know, going back to the way these cars handle and the way that they operate, you know, that's how you steer these cars, is through the gas. You know, it's kind of like driving a jet ski. If you turn it with the gas, you don't turn it with the steering wheel so much. You know, and
Now, this is called sprint car, is that right?
sprint racing.
Sprint racing. And
Yeah, or
so
like
sprint,
World of Outlaws.
right, so
And
sprint
it's a World
racing.
of Outlaws, so we do have to have that question. Does Tony Stewart have nothing else going on in his life that he has to go race?
I think
the
when
world
you're a
of
racer, when you're a car guy, you're a car guy. It doesn't matter. I can drive a Dodge Ram ProMaster across the country, or I can get into an F-Type Jag. I'm still a car guy. You know, if it has a gas pedal, I'm good to go.
But Tony Stewart's not the only one who races in these
No, I
cars.
know.
I mean, Casey Kane, you know, a lot of these other guys do it. A lot of guys, you know,
It's fun.
why not? You have a ride. I'm going to drive.
And you get paid for it.
yeah, I
So
drive.
the controversy this morning, and also the lead story in the news this morning, is how at fault is Tony Stewart. There's clearly going to be a big investigation. Footage is appearing all the time. Our Facebook account, which is Test Miles, go to the Facebook, check it out. We've put the video up there for you to look at, some of the video that we've obtained to show you exactly what happened last night. And remember, this is one angle. This is sound from one person, and what you hear in the video, and I would put a caution of warning on you, is you're going to see a driver struck on the track, and it's pretty horrific just watching it. At the same time, I will go with Oli and say you are right. This is one angle. It's one view. We can't really tell an awful lot from that. Now, the state police, New York State Police, have been asking for all the video to be turned over to them so they can analyze it and decide what happened last night. Ultimately, this could be the end of Tony Stewart's career if it goes the wrong way for him.
I just think it's going to almost be impossible to say definitively that he did it on purpose. I mean, there's plausible deniability that I'm turning the car, I'm trying to avoid him, all that. I just think it's almost going to be impossible.
No, I just think it's a horrible situation for racing, for Tony Stewart to be involved in it. You know, it's obviously mainstream because of his name. You know, I don't know, you know, if it's backyard stuff, if this stuff happens on a regular basis, different things. You know, you have the driver coming down who unfortunately, you know, passed away from the circumstance. And, you know, you look at, you know, you talk about the investigation, the possibility, and Philip Pavero, who is the Ontario County Sheriff, said that, you know, Tony Stewart was fully cooperative, and that he was visibly shaken, you know, after the circumstance. And I don't know how anybody couldn't be. So there's so many variables, and obviously you're talking about split seconds. You have a guy coming down on the track, whether he
But it's about those few seconds
Yeah.
as he came around the corner. What
Yeah.
was he thinking? What was his motivation, and why did he do it? The result, we can't change.
Yeah.
We can try and understand what happened.
And you can't, the couple of seconds to Tony Stewart is way different than a couple of seconds to us. He's used to making those kind of decisions in
Right.
tenths of seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
just hope his temper didn't get the better of him. All right, we have a packed show this morning on Test Miles. A real lot of stuff coming your way this morning. Not only will we be talking to the Ram guys, Dodge Ram, on the phone about our long-term test drive, which is the Ram 1500. Dave's going to be here from Dodge. He's from Ram. Sorry, he's the marketing guy. And we'll talk about why I keep saying Dodge too. Also, Tony Thacker's going to be here. We're going to get a brand new, amazing education center museum facility in Portland area in the next few months. And he's going to tell us about that, plus what we've been driving. All that coming your way on this morning's Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
It's Test Miles on FM News 101.
Sunday morning at 10:20 on FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles, and you're listening to Test Miles. So the last few days have been very enjoyable for me and also very frustrating. We have a co-station here, which is Kink FM 1019, and they will get a new morning show tomorrow morning. Marconi, and he has been in Denver for the last 4 years. So as part of a road trip, I got a Ram ProMaster. It's very hard, you know. Dodge and Ram were the same company until 4 years ago when they split.
I'm going to always remember it as a Dodge.
It's
and
hard to remember
I
just
still
saying
say the
Ram.
Same thing.
Can we do a swear jar? So every time you do that, you got to put a buck in there?
No, because we'd have so much money, we could all go on vacation. The Ram, I got a Ram ProMaster 3500. I flew into Denver where I picked it up, and we loaded it up with his life, his two cats, and we drove over 5 states in 4 days. And it was interesting. I saw a lot of America that I'm not sure I'm ever need to see again.
So is it a Sprinter-like cargo van?
Yes, it's their new commercial vehicle. But what we really want to talk about is the fact that I have a brand new long-term test drive vehicle in the fleet, and we talked about it a little bit. It's the ProMaster. It's the Ram 1500. The ProMaster is what I drove across the country. The Ram 1500 truck is probably, I would say, has most crowning glory of any of their vehicles. The Ram pickup brand is Chrysler's commercial arm, famous for their pickup trucks. Until 2010, the Ram was part of that Dodge brand, and so often we slip up calling it the Dodge Ram, but it's actually Ram on its own now. I get messages from Nick Capper over at Ram brand all the time saying, "Are we ever going to get through this, Nick?" Ram was the first used in 1981, where the truck was named for the Ram hood ornament that originally appeared on the Dodge vehicles in the 1930s, 1933. Now, they're having at Dodge to build extra trophy space for the amount of trophies that this new 1500 has got. In fact, it's kind of interesting that it's been, the Ram has been the Motor Trend Truck of the Year 5 times. And so you could fill a show just talking about the awards that this vehicle has had. Joining us on the phone to talk about the success of the Ram brand is Dave Soers. He is head of the Ram pickup truck marketing. Dave, good morning.
Good morning.
So we have this 1500 Ram, and I apologize for keep calling it a Dodge Ram. Even over these last few years, I'm having a hard time in my brain separating the two brands. This vehicle,
I know it's a hard habit to break.
It is, and I was just saying, Nick Capper gives me twits my arm behind my back every time he hears me say it. This new Ram 1500, I guess not so new anymore, has really taken the truck industry by storm. Ram was the little truck company. It was third in line behind Chevy and Ford, but you guys, and even just recently, 14% increase in sales in July. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. And, that represented the 50th consecutive month of year-over-year sales gains for us. So it's been quite a run that we're on.
Reporting a 167,000 units sold of this vehicle. What is the secret to the success of the Ram 1500?
I think it's really about understanding the customer and the wants and needs that they have. So, for example, on heavy-duty trucks, we focused more on ultimate towing capacity, but on light-duty trucks where we've won these awards, it's been more a focus on fuel economy.
And that's right. We have the EcoDiesel. We have the EcoDiesel version, which gets around 25 miles a gallon, which makes a huge difference for somebody saving that sort of fuel economy. What's the split now? How many people are going for the EcoDiesel as well?
When we first came out with it, we had a lot of experience with diesel engines in our heavy-duty trucks. But the diesel is unique and new to the light-duty segment, and we had estimated about a 10 or 12% take rate for that diesel engine in the light-duty. But the initial reaction has been so strong since the beginning of this year that we've recently upped our forecasts and gone out and got an incremental supply to be able to take it close to 20%.
And it is
that would mean 1 out of every 5 trucks, light-duty trucks we're selling, would have a diesel engine.
And it makes so much more sense because you get so much better fuel economy. There's a few other things that make this vehicle unique. You guys really upped the cabin, didn't you?
Well, that's absolutely true, and pickup trucks in general have come a long way, but we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. We actually were the first pickup ever to win Award's Best Interior award, and it really speaks to the level of equipment luxury and refinement that we were able to bring to pickups, in addition to the basic level of capability.
Now, the other things I think I note on the inside, you've gone to an electronic shifter, a dial shifter, and you've also have the Uconnect system in there. And one of the things I love about that is it creates its own Wi-Fi hotspot.
Yes, that's right. And we've been able to bring in that level of technology, which is really a customer demand nowadays, so that we can, again, bring the capability that the customer wants out of a pickup truck, but not have it be a penalty box when they're driving.
And a lot of times families are using these as their everyday vehicle, and dad's using it to go to work in. The Ram box is another great invention that you guys have put together, and using the space over the wheel wells as a box that can be lockable and also can have liquids in it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We brought the Ram box invention to the marketplace in 2009, and it does a great job of utilizing that space that's above the wheel wells in the bed that you really wouldn't use when you're hauling. Now it's a lockable, lit, drainable storage that can be for tools or beverages or soccer balls.
So the vehicle then becomes...
One of the great things that we've added to it for the 13 model year and going forward is that we now have power locks. So when you walk away from your truck, you can use your key fob to lock not only the doors, but now the tailgate and your Ram box storage system.
And the idea also, the suspension in this vehicle is outstanding, and it's something that you've really done differently from any of the other trucks in the past, right?
Yeah, we have actually two systems that we think are unique and better than our competitors in the segment. The base suspension system that we have is a four-corner coil suspension with a 5-link rear suspension that gives you best-in-class ride quality, but also does a better job of handling loads because the axle is located with the 5 links, and the springs just do the job that you would want a spring to do instead of keeping the axle in place. But for 2013, we brought in a new innovation, which is 4-corner air suspension, which is a higher level of ride quality, but also allows you to raise and lower the vehicle up to 4 inches. And it includes one great thing for pickup trucks, which is load leveling. So if you put 500 pounds in the bed, the air suspension levels your truck back up, and you can operate properly.
I will tell you, for someone that's 5'4", that's a real extra thing. I don't have to work so hard to get into the cab. Dave, we're running out of time. Quickly up against the news here, but thank you so much for joining us. Dave Soers is head of pickup truck marketing for Ram, and he's been telling us about our long-term test drive, the Ram 1500. We will have reports on that vehicle all throughout the next 6 months and tell you how we're doing driving it on a day-to-day basis and how the fuel economy is and some of the features. You're listening to FM News 101 KXL. This is Test Miles. We'll talk to Tony Thacker when we get back about the new World of Speed Museum going in Wilsonville. I'm Nick Miles.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.
Sunday morning on FM News 101 KXL. This is Test Miles, Portland's automotive radio show. You can get more information at testmiles.com. Once in a very great while, a city like Portland gets a museum or an education center like OMSI or the Portland Art Museum. Next year, Portland will have a new education and museum icon. It's called the World of Speed. It'll really feature mid-century automotive cars and memorabilia. The facility is in Wilsonville. You will have to wait, unfortunately, around 12 months or slightly less before you'll be able to go in it. But joining us here to tell us a little bit more about it on Test Miles this morning is the new Executive Director of World of Speed, Tony Thacker. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Nick.
You have taken me on nice walks and tours, not only through the museum, but through warehouses full of an amazing car collection. But let's start.
Warehouses around.
Yes, there are. Let's start at the very beginning and talk a little bit about why the World of Speed.
Well, there's a huge need nowadays for young people to be engineers. You know, we've ignored them for a generation, and nobody's teaching kids to be engineers nowadays. And the foundation I work for is very concerned about that, and is very geared towards educating young people, whether it be in the music world with our youth music project, or whether it be for automotive with World of Speed.
And so World of Speed is taking up residence in a facility that we may be familiar with. It's the old Town and Country dealership.
Yeah, right on the 5 freeway.
Right, so you can't miss it as you go through Wilsonville. It's a big building. You have also very nicely painted a nice big black stripe around the side of the building, and it'll have a sign on top, so you can't miss it from the freeway. You put a lot of work into it. So what are we going to see at the World of Speed when it opens?
Well, primarily it's a collection of post-World War II American race cars. So dragsters, hot rods, Bonneville cars, open-wheel cars, roundy-round cars, sprint cars, midgets, motorcycles, all kinds of American motorsport as kind of the attraction. But then the backbone is really all about educating young people. So we'll bus kids in from school, say, hey, this is an industry, this is a world that you could work in. Here's how to go find a job.
And they will be able to learn there. They'll have classes there. They'll be able to be educated about history and that sort of thing. Because you've set up classrooms too.
Yeah, we have two dedicated classrooms, and also the workshop that was the dealership workshop will be retained as a workshop area where people can come and learn about automotive trades and technology, and go look for a job.
And learn basic things like changing oil, but also learn some more advanced things as well.
Yeah, a little bit. So, I mean, you can actually even learn to paint on a computer nowadays. So I think we can teach people all sorts of things. And even just basics like upholstery. Very hard to find upholsterers nowadays because we haven't taught kids to do that for a generation. And so we need upholsterers. So why wouldn't we teach kids upholstery?
We always use Mobile West because they're upholstering our Project Land Rover right now. Yeah, and it's definitely a dying trade, at least to find people that know what they're doing and to do it well. If you look for somebody in town here in Portland, you tend to find individual guys that do it, but you don't find anything more than guys in their 50s and 60s that do it.
Yeah, there are very few young people doing that.
So Mobile West is probably one of the only places that actually do that, but teaching kids to do that, I agree, is an absolute outstanding thing. So let's talk about why Tony is involved in this project.
Well, until moving to Portland, I was the director of the NHRA Motorsports Museum in Los Angeles, which was a wonderful place to work. I worked for Wally Parks, kind of the founder of drag racing, and Wally was a cool, great guy. But, the challenge was getting old, and the foundation approached me and said, would you like to come to Portland and look at this facility we're going to open? And I said, well, as long as you've got an education program, I'm interested. So I came up, fell in love with the city. It's just like England. And I've been here 2 years, and it's fantastic. It's incredible.
And I think one of the things that really sort of super interests me is I will sit down with you in your office, or I'll go to lunch with you, and I have no perception of the amount of stuff that is going on. I mean, just like millions worth of dollars of cars that are up for sale, and you have to know what you're looking for. And I mean, I remember talking to you driving around. You were driving around just the region looking for a very specific kind of car to put in the museum, and you must have gone through 5 or 10 that were fakes or that were no good or weren't what they were being sold as. And the amount of information that you must retain is unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. Thankfully, I have a great curator, Ron Hughley, and Ron knows his stuff when it comes to race cars, so I always sort of rely on him. But yes, we're looking for, memorabilia, photographs, race suits, old programs, magazines, cars, furniture. I mean, all stuff that relates to that sort of golden age of American motorsports.
The literature collection is phenomenal.
Yeah, huge. We have a almost full-time archivist now just trying to cope with the flow of stuff that we're receiving for the museum. It's absolutely incredible.
And not only being a time capsule of what happened in the mid-century as far as racing is locally and nationally, but you're also bringing in sort of high-tech stuff in there too, because the museum will not just be very dusty old exhibits. It'll be highly educational, right?
Absolutely.
With lots of modern media.
And
ways to look around it. Because you've been working on new websites, you've been working on movies, those sort of things.
Yeah, we're making all our own little movies because it's very hard to license some of that stuff. So we have some local photographers and videographers. We're building our own simulators, so you'll actually be able to sit in real race cars and race like you're racing in a NASCAR race or an IndyCar race. We even have an original 1962 Lotus simulator that we found. Somebody called us and said, hey, you guys need to buy this. So we bought it, and we're working with our guys to develop it into a modern simulator.
So how big is the collection?
Gosh, I don't even know anymore. It's more than 60 cars probably, but less than 100.
Right.
I'm not actually sure how many we've got anymore or where they all are.
What's the sweet spot?
Oh, the sweet spot. We were talking about that the other day. There's several sweet spots there for different people. There's a 71 Hemi Cuda that's very, very rare. There's a couple of Mickey Thompson cars that are very, very rare. And in buying that collection, we found some bits of another Mickey Thompson car. And then in another collection, we found there's some other bits of that car. So we're able to put those back together again and kind of make another car out of that collection.
Well, a big part of some of the NASCARs that got run around here is they're all in pieces, and they got parted out to other vehicles, so it's hard to find.
Yeah,
some of
old
those
NASCARs
cars.
are very hard to find.
You've bought a few. I mean, you have a Donica car. You have a few things in there.
Yeah, we have a Dale Earnhardt Jr. car. We have a Cale Yarborough car. We have a Terry Labonte car. We just bought a Richard Petty car. We're just trying to build up a collection of good, cool stuff, but finding the real stuff as opposed to a recreation.
Let's talk about timeline. What are we looking at? I mean, I don't want to tease people too much, but it's good that they know it's quite a way out, isn't it?
Kind of. It doesn't look like very far out to me at all. Yeah. It looks like next week, but we hope to have everything moved into the building by the end of the year, and then we'll open somewhere between Christmas and April, depending on how the exhibits and the AV and all of the other things that you have to do behind the scenes to make it work.
So if I walk through the museum, tell me a few things that I will be startled by.
Probably one of the biggest things will be images from the land speed record. We have a 8 projector system which will throw video onto the wall. It's 12 feet tall and 120 feet long. That'll be pretty amazing. We have a full-size replica of the Daytona Speedway that'll have full-size real cars on it. Just so that you can see how steep the banking is. There's a really interesting thing called the Wall of Sound, which will be great for you guys because it talks about how music and cars are really interrelated and how we all have stories of music that relates to road trips and things like that. And that's going to be very interactive with old televisions and radios and even record players that used to be in cars. And that'll work. You'll be able to touch and play with that.
My Bill Cosby.
Yeah, he did. That's great.
200 mile per hour.
You didn't donate your old record collection from your car, though? That you used to play
no, my 8 tracks.
The 8 tracks, 4 tracks, 2 tracks.
I was going to donate my 8 tracks, but they said it was too old. It's post-war.
So there's definitely a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
If someone wants to keep in touch with World of Speed and find out how it's developing and when they can get more information, what's the best way?
Just absolutely go to our website, worldofspeed.org. And there's lots of information there about what's coming.
And there's lots of information that you're working on as well for the next year.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. We're building the back end of that as fast as we can with stories about all the vehicles we own, stories about races in town. We have budget to go and film old racers here in town, starting with Roland Volstead, who was 94 now and was one of the most famous local guys to go to Indy. So we're filming as many of those people as we can.
Yeah, some of those people, you want to get them filmed as soon as possible.
If you're planning a wedding for next year, check this out because it'll be an amazing venue.
Yeah, you have a drive-in movie theater.
Yeah,
right?
There's a drive-in. Portland Speedway racetrack used to have a drive-in theater on it, and so we recreated that inside the museum so we could have indoor drive-in theater in the winter. But the space is big enough for 1,000 people, so you could have a 1,000-seat banquet there with free parking.
Will you welcome to come down and do a live show from there?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
If I'm alive, you can come.
Tony, thanks so much. Stick around for the last segment. We're going to talk about what cars we've been driving this week and wrap up all of the show stuff. You're listening to FM News 101 KXL. It's a Sunday morning, and this is Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles.
Favorite us, tweet us, friend us, love us, all at testmiles.com. It's Test Miles on FM News 101.
Sunday morning Test Miles, 10:51. Rapidly running out of time for the show this morning. Let's talk about what we've been driving. Brad, what have you been into?
Thanks. I get to go first. Hey, I was in the Golf TDI, which is the 7th generation of the Golf.
Great. Sean, what are you? Oh, sorry.
So this was the NWAPA, the Northwest Auto Press Association green vehicle, and deservedly so. It is my 10 out of 10. I give it an 11. It's 31 miles in the city, 42 highway.
This is diesel, right? TDI meaning diesel.
Sorry, the TDI. But the biggest word that I could say is torque. It is so fun, and it can be green, and it can still be fun. Tons of room inside. The only competition really on this thing is maybe the GTI, its own competitor, because it's so fun to drive. 3 trim levels. I had the SE that was at about 27 total, but you can go from 21.9 up to 28 and is right there, top 2 or 3 cars of the year.
One of the things I found with VW is I love the cars, but I'd have to have them fully loaded. Like the base models are a little bit.
The base models are base.
They're too rough for me.
But the 6-speed manual was so fun to finally get back into a manual transmission, and it has to be a manual for this car.
unless it's an automatic.
Right.
No, I don't want the Tiptronic. I want
But doesn't
the
it-
manual.
Is the automatic in those more efficient? With
Yeah,
the,
most
with the
automatics
DSG
now are
now?
most efficient.
Most,
than the-
yeah.
Most of them you can get better fuel economy too. Oh, good. So the price was $28,000
$28,000. That's pretty top end for that.
and 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
And now you've completely messed up our whole scoring system. Sean, what have you been into?
I've been in the 2015 Mazda CX-5, and even though this didn't win, this was my pick for small compact in Mudfest a few months ago. I love being in it because it actually handles and rides like a small car. You don't realize that you're in a small compact SUV. It handles and it's really tight on the corners and just a great drive.
Very light and very nimble. In fact, even driving Mazda's 5, their minivan or their sort of non-minivan, it handles like a sports car. They've done that really well in all of their vehicles.
Yeah, the only gripe I have with it, and it's not a big one, it's just like off the line or from a dead stop, it's a little laggy getting up, but once you get, 3 RPM or higher, this car is amazing.
That's what you have your Corvette Callaway.
Yes, I understand that's why, but, I still like to be able to move.
So
It has 150 or 184 horsepower, 2 engines, and it gets decent fuel economy, nothing to brag about, but average is
now
around
wait a second, but
26.
that's not necessarily true because if you get the 4-cylinder with Sky Active, it is the most fuel-efficient SUV in America with a non-hybrid engine.
I had the bigger engine, and then the one thing I found out about it is because last week when we had the 100-degree weather, you turn the AC on and it sucks 2 gallons out of it just right away.
Really? Because usually AC will make no difference whatsoever.
This one did, because I was actually talking to you, and I was like, I'm getting like 23 miles to the gallon in this, and then I finally realized why. I was like, once I had the AC on, it sucked it dry.
Really?
But you don't have it, it goes right back up.
Was it extra cold?
Yeah, the AC was extra cold, so that's one good thing I will. So
Have you ever ridden in a car with Sean before?
No.
It's disgustingly painful. He has to have it at minus 400 degrees in the vehicle.
I like
He's
it
just
cold.
a sweatbox. All right, you done? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, so let me talk a little bit about, I drove across the country in this Ram ProMaster 3500. Easy to drive, lots of space. The Uconnect system is the bad part. They have a very limited Uconnect system, which is definitely the best audio system or navigation system in the country, but didn't like the one that they had in there. 6-cylinder, 248 horsepower. Man, this thing is absolutely unbelievable as far as space is concerned. It competes with the Sprinter, with the Nissan NV, and the Ecoline from Ford. Starting price around $29,000. 5 states in 4 days, 1,500 miles in total I drove in it. Absolutely godsend. If I had a delivery service, I would be using this. Also been driving this week the Jaguar F-Type. Only unfortunately spent a day in it, but I can tell you a little bit about this. Is still the best roadster I have been in for the last 40 years. It feels amazing to drive. It has a button on the inside which makes it sound even better, increases the sound of this vehicle. 5-liter V8, 0 to 60 times just off the map. And also, we're talking about over 500 horsepower. This thing is a 10 out of 10. I think this is a great addition to the Jaguar lineup, and they'll have more of those coming the next year.
When I see those driving down the road, they are head turners.
Absolutely.
I just think it's one of the most gorgeous cars out there.
And I think for starting price around $72,000, I would say it's hard to be in one for less than 100 when you start to get all the things you want inside it. But everything Jaguar is really good at, they brought it all together. Some cars have better things than others in the Jaguar lineup, but once you get all of those things together in one car, this is it. And the sound is just
is
unbelievable.
amazing.
I mean,
we had that on Run to the Sun last year, and I got to drive it up the hills.
right, and this is the hard top. We had the convertible last year. We hopefully have the hard top in this year too. Run to the Sun, by the way, is a Northwest Automotive Press Association event where we do a rally over 2 days. We have 25 cars, 25 journalists, and the members of the Automotive Press Association swap cars every 20 miles or so. And we'll drive out to Sisters, spend the night in Sisters, and then come back a different route. This year, the lineup of cars will blow you away. We have a Rolls-Royce Wraith, we have a Bentley, we'll have the new Alpha 4C. I mean, the lineup of cars will knock you sideways. It's going to be pretty unbelievable. So that's an event that we'll be involved in coming in the beginning of September as well. So good driving cars. Let's just revisit our main story of the day this morning. We're talking about the accident that took place last night in upstate New York in the sprint car races. Tony Stewart striking another driver and unfortunately killing him. Lots of talk about this. You can see the video on our website, on our Facebook page at facebook.com/testmiles. You're listening to The Automotive Show on KXL Radio, FM News 101. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.